is not just a meeting you come and speak for. I got rather emotional, and if you excuse me, I will just digress for one moment. First of all, being here with you and hearing Congresswoman Delara and Congresswoman Lechman and Samantha, I kept thinking that, you know, it is true. There is a space where the boundaries of nationality, religion, ethnicity, race, and gender do not exist. And there is a space where we all make a home, where no matter where we come from or where we are born, we make it our own, and that is the power of what we call democracy. These are not just terms, these are not just words. And I wanted to tell you in appreciation of NED, that my first experience was NED was, as many of my good experiences in this country, through my good friend and colleague Mahnaz Afghani. I was traveling between Iran and the United States, and she sent me to NED. She said, go and talk there. And I said, you know, they don't want me to talk there. I'm going to talk about Jane Austen. She said, go and talk there, I tell you. So I went and talked about reading Jane Austen in Tehran. And at the end of that, Carl came to me and talked for hours, not hours, but minutes. Or hours that seemed like minutes. About Jane Austen. And from then on, Carl and his family, and Ned, Barbara, David, Mark, they all became, Lara, you're sitting there, I don't know where Jackie is, you're there. They all became like our family. And when I went back to Iran, it was through Mahnaz and through Ned mainly that I'm here, standing here as a proud Iranian American. And he and I could not communicate, you know, to National Endowment. I couldn't write letters to them. So I would write letters to the University of Fredonia. And he was the president of the University of Fredonia. And that university has been the learning place of many, many of my countrymen and women. And for that, I would like to thank you. It is such an honor and a privilege to be celebrating the birth of the Green Movement and to be presenting this wonderful movie by the award-winning filmmaker Babak Payami to you. I was thinking as you were talking that what other place, no better place than this, as you said, the House of the People, to be talking and celebrating the Iranian people in a country where the first words of its constitution is "we the people." And you know, a year ago, when, as you see in this film, Iranian people, all of a sudden, their voices and their images burst upon the screens, the internet and television. You know, and you know, I felt as if they were demanding their rights, not just from a regime that had confiscated their past and their present, but they were also demanding the right from the world, the right to be seen and heard by that world. Because up to then, the dominant images that kept coming about Iran were many of the ruling elite, and the main voices that you would hear from Larry King to Charlie Rose were mainly the voice of Mr. Ahmadinejad, usually with that grin on his face as if he had just broken the neighbor's window and got away with it. You know, he had become the Brad Pitt of the bad boy club, you know, the way he was wined and dined. Of course, he wasn't wined, he was juiced and dined, I guess. But at any rate, that is the amazing thing about it, that the Iranian people got their rights. They made the world to see them the way they were. And in all that diversity that I know Babak Payami is so committed to. I just wanted to tell you about him that when I first saw him, well, I didn't know him, well, I knew about his fantastic films, and he told me that he had workshops about the right to offend. And I thought, here's my man. Because of the fact that what he meant was, as a filmmaker, and as a man of principle, you need to tell the truth. And the truth always offends. And the truth, just telling the truth, is always a call to action. And that is why we're all here, and that's why we're seeing this movie. And Babak's best-known film is, of course, Secret Ballot, which was about the idea of democracy and voting. And his last film, his third film, The Silence Between Two Thoughts, was confiscated by the regime. They raided his office in Tehran, they confiscated his film. It is like mutilating your child when they confiscate, and they destroyed whatever he had. So he had to sort of put the film together. You never really got the whole film back. So this is about him, and you will see what he does in this film, which I think is very important. First of all, he locates this movement within the historical tradition of democracy, of the fight for democracy in Iran. He goes back at least 100 years ago and locates it there. So those who think that for Iranian people, freedom and rights and democracy is a Western thing, they can see how it evolved out of the country itself. And when we talk about women, one thing you don't know maybe about Mahnaz is that she was the second Minister for Women's Affairs in the world. The first were the French, in this case, one of the few cases where they were ahead of us. And she has continued that work up to now. So I want to end by saying that another thing that Babak does, which I think is very important, is that he also locates the Iranian green movement within the context of the world movement for democracy. So you hear voices from Balaklav Havel, to democracy movement people from Africa, from Middle East, and he begins with the portrait of Neda. And I always think that the tragedy of Neda is not just that she died, but that she had to die in order for the world to know that she has lived. And we should not make this mistake again. We should not let other people die so that we know that they have lived. And I want to end by saying I began with the first words of the Constitution. And I wanted to tell you here that, you know, the movement in Iran, whatever we do and whatever way we support it, it is supporting our own values. The gift that Iranian women, people, and the gift that this film brings to you is to remind you that the sacrifices and the blood that the American people gave for that Constitution and for that Declaration of Independence is not in vain, because it is universal. In the same way that fundamentalism and terror are universal, democracy and human rights are also universal. And so I want to end with what the Iranian people are now demanding from their government. I want to end with the last words from the Declaration of Independence, that the Iranian people are now becoming one voice with the American people, asking for the right to life, liberty, and of course, always, pursuit of happiness. Thank you.